Sangye chedang tsogi chonam la chanchu pardo dani kyabsanche dagi jinso yebe tsonam ge ndola penjire sangye ndobar Sangye chedang tsogi chonam la chanchu pardo dani kyabsanche dagi jinso yebe tsonam ge ndola penjire sangye ndobar Sangye chedang soge chonam lo chanchu pardo dani kyabsan Dage jinso yebe chonam gen dola pinjire sangye ndo barasho Kange dujingi zungwa tawa tanzan pambi chire tambi chini zanzibe kudam de la cha za lo yada shizun chambang gombe ngandri nanme dagi jin thori nanme razan la gashi me pa tengi pi chanchu samla cha za lo sa wada dos chini tanguni chanchu ki sem rinpoche sere pe to chan sere pa dos chini to chan seke yore 이 가르잖아. 문이 랑 냠슬레나 저기 셈라이네 배 꼼디데 냠슬레나 만드는 도야 돼. 아니 만동아 소라니 배 람데 타야 돼. 저기 셈초. 아니 둘이 애니 배 라다미 고방데 저기 셈 라세니 그 가시메 배니 배 아기. 아 문이 300개비 고마야 전주기 셈. 에너지 냠는지나 두투고에 서도스진 수고와 인도가 전주기 셈인데 뭐네 랑기 냠는 맞아 멤버마도 전주기 셈게네 배 냠는 제가 있나 아니 배 돈이 더 비싸와 시립니니 벌어야 전주기 셈 이거 쉬워지 다지 못 잡고 있어.
저것은 왜 전부 공부? In the prayer text, or the text by Maitreya Buddha, there's a verse in which he kind of mentioned about the greatness of the altruistic mind, or bodhicitta. In a verse, he mentioned that altruistic mind can lead to the higher rebirth, and altruistic mind can also kind of block us from taking rebirth in the lower realms, and it can also make us attain liberation, even the highest destination of enlightenment. And so especially practice of bodhicitta, awakening mind, or altruistic mind, with the understanding of emptiness, can also serve as the antidotes for the subtlest obscuration, that is, cognitive obscurations.
기부숨 기부스는 산스크리트 브루셔스 리가라 가르치고 뉴젠시고 선으로 자치중 방이 일반 원통 기부춤이 주자리 도미야데 가래동 발스나 미기 주품 domni 주자에 나가미 있고 항상 기부춤 상록자 니간 통통 상록자 중중사 일바 중중세고 가지 기부춤 일바 중중 아니 기분 딩 쓰리가라 아니 아 대상만이 봐 dom제대야 뉴모 타다 가지 뉴모라 뉴모 군다사 이게 니에되네 군다사 이게 타다 dom니 주자 네베 랑코니 돈도 아니 미안하게 타봐서 어떻게 수인데 주자 중초리 dom제대야 그 장 뉴모 시작이야 데이비가라 일반 딩 와다 도스체니 주자대는 춘춘이 봐 딩지마다 메인사 도시 가지 이중 델리 중들라 기분 좀 쳐고 아니 냠스 렘바고 간사데 기분 지 가지 일반 내게 인사 도시 와다 기분 첨부 세대가라 아니 일반 라 첨부 와다 기용해야 돼 장주 비싼 게 틀리세 와다 어머니 녀몽이 님보자네 뒤에 녀몽 뒤시작해 시리 빠져 이제 중징해야 돼 동의가 공도 주주는 동의도 따와서 시급 녀보를 자주 있으면 둘에 그래서 기부치고 도시 장거 이거 때문에 중부차네 중따진 부차네 랑 냠내 맞에 공 맞에나 미수 가가지 아디 이제 나 같이 써요 그러니까 이제 가지 중도 잘 맥사지 것이다 근데 배 기부칩니다 중는 배 냠는 소스 때문에 중시 차고
Um, the the subject that we are studying for this teaching, as you know, text, mind training like the rays of the sun. Text is primarily focused on the practice of altruistic mind or awakening mind, through kind of explaining three types of practitioners or three scope of practitioners, and practitioners here. The Tibetan word is Kepu. In literally, when we look at Sanskrit word, it's Prush, which it has a literal sense of having kind of ability or potential. So differences between these three capacities or three practitioners is really based on their kind of intensity of intention or power of or ability of motivation or thought, you can say. So when we look at these three types of practitioners, first, small scope or little capacity, what they abstain from is from 10 negative activities, and what they try to achieve is simply higher rebirth of another human rebirth or deities higher rebirth, and therefore in terms of objective, it's very kind of limited. That requires small effort. Second, person of medium scope or medium capacity, what they try to abstain from is, or what they try to eliminate is all kinds of afflictions or defilements, including both innate as well as kind of acquired. Objective they try to attain, for destroyers of various schools such as heat, and primarily for oneself. It's kind of personal rather than thinking about other sentient beings. And then third, great scope or great capacity. Again, here when we say great or high, that refers to the intention or motivation. And these practitioners, the main practice as we as mind or bodhicitta, and therefore these practitioners becomes highest, greatest capacity. And so these practitioners not only kind of aimed at kind of eliminating all kinds of afflictions, but they also engage in practice of eliminating even the mental imprints of subtlest kind of obscurations, as we mentioned before, cognitive obscurations, with kind of the support or based on the understanding of the emptiness. So looking at these three, and the objective of this great scope is enlightenment, and so looking at the these three scope practitioners, what we see is the content of the text that we are studying in itself is very sacred, and there's nothing kind of lacking what we are studying or the subject matter. But whether you make enough effort that is required to grasp or understand or put to practice, it depends on individual practitioners.
대회 가라 다게 용데 때 너 잘라서 봐 근데 요모티기 그때 가도 뽕도 전부신 나와야겠나 따지고 네 민자로 저는 용 처분이야 나신제네 생 그런 대회 저 깨끗하면 로용도 가라 애니베 미디어에 쳐 민사면 포사면 참 어떻게 이거 생생 취재 개치쇼 말한도 최 세대발 제비 주규당해 돼 루기 넘길 주규 동사 생각 말해 누나기 제자대 주규 동사대 또그 때문에 나 마고네 동체띠 거래 마 동이야 뭐야 또 됐어 또 셈만 주규당 반지 머리 비정하고 마성하지 아니 배 여외처럼 가다네 여외처럼 진진진다 근데 많은 진진다 된지야 아니 배 셈 주규당 중간에 보다 또 주규당 근데 또 수진 순간 이거 하나씩 삼바나 최제의 셈딩이 제일 내 전보다 보다 두수차이요 보다 최제나 재산 제도 시와대 빼면서 개체
The practice of those three capacities or practitioners, small, medium, and great, can be kind of expressed through physically, verbally, and mentally, which we also see in other religion or belief system. But in Buddhism, the main kind of the practice that should be done is through mind or mental practice, as His Holiness says, from citing Arya Dev's 400 verses in the text. In that text, Arya Deva talks about, especially in ancient contemporary kind of practice, talks about practice focus more on physical behavior, practice focus more on verbal speech recitations, and then third, practice mainly focused on mental. And here, Buddhism, which comes from Buddha Shakyamuni, is comes under the third one, mainly kind of doing related with the mind, and there are practices like in ancient Vedic Hindu practice where they really focused on chanting, recitation, very kind of melodious, recitations, and also there are practice, non-Buddhist practice that is very much kind of focused on kind of physical asceticism, kind of bringing physical pain and torture, and in Buddhist practice we do of course have a practice that kind of done through other two sort of means, physical and verbal. Physically we maintain fasting and prostrations and walking around temples, circumambulations. But again, the main practice through which we must done is mind. And the reason here His Holiness kind of talks about because physical and verbal practice, whatever practice that you do, could kind of done, but also kind of with influenced by negative emotions or negative mentality. But for the mental, that is not the case. When you are mentally engaged in the practice, it doesn't allow the afflicted emotions to kind of influence. So example would be if you are physically engaged in some kind of maybe prostrations or circumambulations, while physically you are doing something, but mentally you are wandering, and even sometimes could be thinking or influenced by hatred and anger and all kinds of negative thoughts. Likewise with the verbal recitations, you are sitting doing chanting, but in your mind it could be kind of not a good thought. So both of these could be kind of influenced by negative thoughts, and therefore there's no guarantee that those practice could always become a positive or not. But that is not the case with the the mental practice. Mentally, when you are kind of seriously engaged in some practice, such as practice of bodhicitta, awakening mind, you are totally your mind is totally focused on kind of this positive practice. So therefore, it doesn't allow negative attachment or desire or anger to kind of influence or taint your thought. So Dharma or Che in Tibetan, it also has the meaning of transformation or changing, bringing transformation. So again, here when we look at this meaning of transformation of what? Again, here primarily focus with transformation of our thought, and not mainly physical and verbal changing. But again, however, as we mentioned before, there are practice in Buddhism too, which is related with the physical and verbal kind of behavior, such as abstaining from maintaining a silence or fastings. But here in Buddhist practice, we are mainly focus related with the mind changing of thought, reducing of self-grasping ignorance mind, and promoting and developing thought of such as other cherishing thoughts, and benefiting others' thought. And therefore, it is kind of crucial to know when we say engage in practice, what kind of practice one should be doing and how to do it.
다 되는 것은 거기 참대 아니 다 뭐네 체질 아니 배 냠는 다시 제부부에 어서 체가 한국에는 체질을 냠는 진이 셈바 그래서 어차피 레이거 로션 들리는 어차피 뭐네 말아 지구 침배 쓰리가 왜 다르까지 자원이는 말해 진심이라 근데 니본 로시고 와 진심이 왜 다르까지 되는도 제 디마 멤버 샘티기 진이 코로나 오도 유전된 등이 등비 신도 네 누가 니에나 소장을 미베 전되는 미빈 누가데 근두바데 또 누가 소소에네 소장을 미고 소소 소장 속에 유유메 빠졌다네 근데 토해지기나 김베스체도 근데 또 누가데 소장을 미고 근데 이거 그거는 제대로 고바다만 된지 간다 가이나 그 침대 된지 인친지라 그거는 된지 보는 거 알아den지 고바다 진행이 고바다 제가 알아를 잡아까지 합니다 알아는 제사대 남주던 덴베랑든 제 같이 시고를 마서 알아는 제야지 미경 통통 아니 죽자 맨되긴 알아 진진기 세워둔 거에 알아는 제사대 반다버도 지는데 엔다에 메지 세부이 맞다 하고 또 맞다 알아 진진의 인벌로 해야지 땡땡 어떤 식으로 와 알아 왜 다르까지 말 알아 진진 제가 좀 말하고 와 같이 뜻인 거 어차피 누구로 즉 알아는 제사 뭐로 와야 돼 대첨벌이 있어 영광 지향에도 숨고 영광을 때가 자주 세비 람든 지야 돼 람든 비울랍 침부터야 등이 타침을 줘야 돼 근데 람든 지도 남자들 람든 숨고 어떻게 오늘 숨 미루어 숨 세마래 어떻게 되잖아 나서 가서 툭툭 하게 양양도 삼다네 얘는 소소 셈라 모습으로 삼다고 해야 돼 개치고 차고 시간이 내치고 정말 무슨
So in studying, this text of the great scope or high capacity, the practice of altruistic mind, we also require kind of the needed motivation to begin with. So that is motivation of aiming at other sentient beings as suffering and wanting them to be free from suffering and wanting other sentient beings to be with the happiness. And with that, the texts of Mahayana that we are studying, our practice also becomes Mahayana practice. Otherwise, even if you are studying simply by studying Mahayana text doesn't mean that your practice is also becoming Mahayana practice. Even if you are studying this kind of text, but in your mind you are just thinking about your own kind of freeing from suffering, and simply kind of aiming at a higher rebirth of yourself, then that becomes a practice of low scope, small scope practitioner, although the text that you are studying is a Mahayana text, but your practice is not. And if you are aiming to attain simply kind of liberation from cyclic existence, again your practice is a medium scope practice, although text that you are studying is Mahayana. So the point here is that by studying a text of Mahayana, we need to make sure that our practice also becomes the practice of Mahayana practice. And so therefore it must be kind of really kind of grounded on awakening mind or bodhicitta or altruistic mind. And the root of altruistic mind is none other than compassion. So therefore, compassion is really needed here in order to have this altruistic mind. And compassion, again, kind of, when we say compassion, aiming at other sentient beings and wanting them to be free from suffering, and suffering here especially from three types of suffering. The third types of suffering, pervasive or conditioned suffering, freeing from pervasive, suffering. And so therefore it is important to kind of, even before kind of going on to the practice, into the practice of altruism, promoting and engaging and making ourselves familiar with this mind of compassion, which is very important here. So development of compassion will have a direct impact on reducing all other destructive emotions such as hatred and anger. As compassion increases, those kind of opposite mind will kind of diminish automatically. So therefore contemplating the benefits of altruistic mind or compassion would be really kind of benefit in making your kind of practice a practice. And such as, for that you can look at Shantideva's book, on the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, Bodhicharya Avatar, especially the first chapter. It talks about benefits and advantages of altruistic mind. And so contemplating, making familiar, thinking again and again, all of this on this kind of altruistic mind and compassion can then gradually become a change in your mind. It's a very kind of gradual process. And so whenever or whatever practice that you do, again, just to make sure that your practice becomes the practice of Mahayana practice. When you are just by yourself, like meditating or reciting a refuge prayer, always kind of begin with generating a thought of benefiting others. The thoughts of great school practitioners. And in the text, we reach to the point where text talks about the topic here is translated as the integrated practice of a single lifetime, which is on page 84 if you have the same textbook. This topic deals with how can a practitioner kind of have all of this practice within one lifetime, kind of put together everything in one lifetime. So this is the point that we find in 7-point mind training, which actually this text is the commentary to the 7-point mind training short text. And but again here, when we talk about practice of great scope or altruistic mind, definitely we're not talking about sacrificing yourself and not doing anything for yourself. What it says or what it means here is giving up one's this kind of self-cherishing thought or ego mind. And when we look at the very kind of definition of altruistic mind, we find kind of in the definition kind of two really important kind of components, the two aspiration, you can say. The first is the immediate the cause, which is thoughts of benefiting other sentient beings, and then accompanying kind of factor is attaining enlightenment for yourself. So when you look at the definition or the meaning of the altruistic mind, it also includes a practice which is really kind of it's kind of self-practice, for benefit of oneself, attaining enlightenment for yourself. And so the practice of great scope or this altruism always kind of entails two purposes. One is directed towards other sentient beings, and one is directed towards oneself. And so this kind of benefiting, dual benefiting, others and oneself is truly kind of as His Holiness says, it's very positive, good ways of fulfilling oneself, one's own. It's a good, positive kind of ego mind, if you may say. So in the practice of altruistic mind, you are looking, or you are kind of giving up of sacrificing your self-cherishing thought, ego mind, kind of with the understanding that this kind of ego mind, self-cherishing thought is not something beneficial, not something constructive. So so you are making yourself free from this kind of ego mind. And as His Holiness says, the bodhisattvas, those who are engaged in the practice of altruism, they are kind of engaging in kind of sort of a kind of ego mind with a great intelligence, that is benefiting oneself as well as benefiting others. And so with kind of respecting, of course, very valid teachings by His Holiness, we need to be kind of doing our best and engaging in this kind of thought and contemplation as much as we can, until it brings some changes within our mind. Why kind of validating that, saying that His Holiness teachings are valid, is because his teachings are also based on valid teachings, such as Lama Tsongkhapa's text. In that Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings, we find expressions such as the practice of bodhisattvas. So although they are aiming at the benefiting other sentient beings, but they are also fulfilling one's wishes along the way. So, and with that, the bodhisattvas, noble beings, they kind of fulfill benefiting oneself as well as other sentient beings, and attain, the kind of result of liberation. But on the other hand, ordinary people like us, always kind of engage mainly in kind of self-cherishing thought and following these kind of thoughts. We are still in the suffering of cyclic existence.
아니 아빠 꼼도 아니 저기 쌤 라 꼼비티야 양양도 삼다 양양 삼다 꼼비티야 도시진 세간집이 냐면 동네에 나와 뒤집이 냐면 저거 이 순간 내 전부를 내 담발에 남바 상계비 취리 시체 말에 주치 소소 주치 누가 냐면 했더니 또가 이렇게 끼고 와서 그 뒤에 셰니 아니 배 강강한 셰니 생각 자기면은 된다요 이거라 남바 상계비 취라 시체들 주치 니요 말에 내 순간 그다지 순간이 규정 매만 규정이야 그다지 이거라 또 누가 냐면 지금이야 와다 누가 냐면 제가 또 니가 세식이 냐면 근데 지니체 보고 아주 순간 예 지금 그 오늘 가유이나다 니마이나다 사케이나다 벨루이나다 뭐다 세상에 네가 나오는 뭐가 때도 좋도야 말해 이게 그럼 지켜서 순야라 가르쳐 슈루 친구 시디 중 친구들아 파 디온들아 야식 야탐바 나렌지 니베 빈지다 툴데 나렌자 툴데 차 이거 지 슈루 디기디 차자 나렌지 니베 템바 냠슬링 세지 다음아 그리 중전 지나발라 두는데가 아니 배 가수가 다 풍두살이 마다마다 차 이 다음아 그라 이름하고 중충 말해서 그래도 영어로 좀 뭐말라 진지는 알지 뭐가 되게 kenwara shiwat nature ba oda tus chini mazo nyamne chede sechi nyamne de oda top ne ga ne jiba chede ne pe nyamne chwa de ne tambara oda ti indugala nimbo na nyamne chede andu dusre se
The integrated practice of a single lifetime, page 84, if you have a textbook. The integrated practice of a single lifetime. So within a single lifetime, if you have a practice of the Buddhist practice, you can done that through this. It says the text says the training the 5 powers. One can done through these 5 powers. The 5 powers, it begins with the power of intention. It begins with the proper generation of intention or motivation. The second is the power of white seed, which actually is the practice of altruistic mind. It refers to the altruistic mind itself. And then power of the third one is the power of remorse or regret. Here comes really kind of understanding the negative impact of negative impact of the negative activities and then abstaining from negative activities. The power of prayer, number 4. Even though we cannot genuinely engage in the practice of altruism at this moment, but we can generate a thought of wishes and prayers so that we can engage in the same practice continuously in future rebirth too. Number 5 is the practice of familiarity, or the power of acquaintance, which is really kind of making your mind familiar with the practice of the altruistic mind. So your entire lifetime practice can be very much kind of summarized into these 5 practices. And in Buddhist practice, we always talk about Buddhist practice. When you are engaged in the practice, it is not about, it is not about kind of verbal teaching. The Buddhist practice is actually, practice that needs to be kind of implemented. Otherwise, if you just keep talking and discussing and, it's not really touching your mind, not implementing at all, then there is no point at all of doing Buddhist practice. So therefore, what is most important here is kind of implementing, those practices or the teachings that we see here. His Holiness talks about, when we look at the 4 different Tibetan Buddhist sects, Kagyu, Nyingma, Sakya, Gelug. When we look at the scriptural kind of content of these 4 different, traditions, they are actually kind of, when we trace this back, they are, nothing separate from what we find in the great teachings of the Nalanda, masters. But when we look at the specific teachings of Vajrayana or Tantric teachings, then we do find slight differences is based on where the original, where they came from. So therefore, kind of, it's also important to understand, these points.
So 소소나 수디가 너무 저기 디비나 중인샤나 진짜 샘들 샤고래 이게 저는 똑같 본디센 베스지 지기 티나도 이렇게 과마 차지 과 차나 진님만 들어 무슨 거 오늘 말한 지 상담은 어디 되게 연재돼 지가 오늘 상담에 아니 대리처럼 좀 지거지 뭐다가 근데 주거가 들라 경고를 미스팅선 주든 이빨 야시는 있어 어때 이 미거라 경고를 미지 데미지 두 칼이 되는 맞죠 델리카 왜 그러나 또 스칼만 얘는 영어요 한바탕지 수스탄 거 자주기 센터 이어면 만들어 자오년데 펜파파고 다음에 자주기 센터 민들어 제기 너 팅팅잘 보내 진짜 방도 미자는 델라스인데 또바 대자기 대신도네 텔 semjol guru jesuso sawa 펜파타사레 그냥 비디지도 소가 바제 펜파사 자주기 센디 지금 하게 생존 담지기 농아도 내서 냠바죠 고와 이리가 셈딩이 고 꺄르나 말 셈딩이 도와지는 거야 오빠지는 거 한다 디 가지기 셈징이 동안세기 이거 열어서 안돼 너 말와 디메인상 균두 바티기 아니 수수 상계 리도 같대 아니 상계 리나 수수 방도 상계 니 진진지야 디마이발라 거기난 디수도 진진 줄이 탑라 가르 라짐나 야 근데 죽고 말한던 둘라 나야메리 젠던 버진 둘라 저와 젠당 무시 마르키 zopaso jindi che bikan sawo sho sibila mi kaja shena kaja sheya abdibi ne mine to sheya marke ka ni chensli chen mai oda tindiki ni moshi mai ito tanda jindi bi yala riti ting ma so kaja sheya tanda samda nyebo chen shena so tuye to ha chen dang 모시들이 어떤 영화를 봐. 이 메시지는 그 균의 희롱 시하고 어떻게 지수 진행들이 차견들 연락이 됐습니다. 젠당 모시 마켓에서 봐서 아니 조선다 미세가 팬도이 이제 저파랑 이거만 소스 샌드위치야 핑계도 어떻게 오늘 젠더들이 연락에 수고 소소 가진 있는 게 분도 있는 거지. 어떻게 쉽게
Uh, the first power, training the five powers, the first one, the power of intention. We must set a strong determination, thinking, quote, I shall not let the primary or secondary disturbing emotions which arise from the misconception of self dominate my activities of body and speech, even for a moment, from now until I attain enlightenment, or at any time in this life until I die, this year, this month, and today in particular, unquote. So, yes, you see this, under this intention, what you are doing is not allowing at all negative thoughts, to arise in your mind. You are not permitting any kind of negative thoughts arise, in your mind. Says, this year, this month, today. And so not kind of allowing or not giving opportunity to destructive or, afflicted emotions at all. And the reason, as we mentioned before, because of the negative, or afflicted emotions or defilements, in long term, take us to rebirth in the lower realms, immediate, suffering and problems. So here it's really kind of maintaining this kind of strong as its determination or thought. Anytime, kind of not allowing negative thoughts to arise. And here it's kind of helpful to understand what are the impacts if you let yourself under the power of destructive or afflictions. What are the immediate results? What are the long-term results? We find in the words of my perfect teachers text, by Zabedru Rinpoche. He talks about in length, in detail about the sufferings of a lower rebirth and how long one suffers. Continue with the reading. Similarly, make a strong resolve thinking. Quote, I will become familiar with and never be separated from the awakening mind until I have attained the highest enlightenment, and so forth. And today in particular, I shall not be parted from it, unquote. So on the one hand, you see kind of sort of shutting down the door for all kind of destructive negative emotions. On the other hand, you're always remaining kind of sort of embracing, welcoming this thought of attaining enlightenment, awakening mind. And that is how you maintain kind of intention or motivation, kind of active all the time. And there's a quote here: the king of meditative stabilization sutra says, the more a human being analyzes something because the force of his thought is focused on it, his mind dwells on it more strongly. And this kind of on the one hand, looking at the awakening mind, the highest enlightenment, and then understanding that awakening mind or enlightenment is something that is attainable. It help us to maintain this kind of interest, motivated, with great kind of determination. It will keep us inspired. And from that understanding comes all of the positive emotions or positive thoughts are something. The nature is that they are there in a such way that they are attainable. All those loving kindness, compassion, positive thoughts. And the negative or destructive emotions by nature is that if you make an effort, they are separable. These instructions we find in Stages of Path Lamrim, strongly emphasized by two great teachers of His Holiness. The ordinary people like us, why we are then not able to kind of make this materialize, as we always talk about, because ordinary people are so much under the influence of, many different kind of factors such as laziness, not having inspired, interested, not having enough intelligence to understand this kind of, the reality. And the another big part is kind of a habitual sort of familiarity with the negative thoughts. When we become kind of when we reach at the right kind of age, we don't need, as we talked many times before, in order to have all these destructive, negative, emotions. We don't need teachers. It becomes they comes in us so kind of spontaneously, so easily, so naturally. But on the other hand, engaging in the positive activities, constructive, good, thought. Even having a teacher is not enough. We have a teacher guiding us, but still we are struggling. And once we struggle in learning, then it's hard to understand the meaning. And once you understand the meaning, then there is another obstacle of not having a good practice. So, So again here required is sort of some effort from practitioner's side. When we look at the great practitioners such as His Holiness, he talks about doing his practice early in the morning, and of course in the late evening, getting up in the 2 in the morning, and at this point, even though we are not able to engage fully in the practice, but understanding that we have a Buddha nature, we have a seed, that enlightenment is something possible, attainable. It again, as mentioned before, it gives us a strength, motivation, aspiration, and so at this time, kind of engaging, in the practice that is, kind of capable for ordinary people. In a verse by Gyawa Gyaltsen, the first Dalai Lama, he talks about talking pleasantly to others, practice of patience, powers of prophecies, ability to kind of see kind of long distance. So he talks about these factors, which are actually means to benefit other sentient beings, including practice of patience, and how patience is beneficial for others, as well as for oneself, not getting your mind disturbed. And we will take a break here.